Hi, today I'll tell you about the movie Bedazzled, which one was released 2000. Elliot Richards is a lonely, absent-minded office plankton with a very eccentric humor that no one understands. For work colleagues, he is too annoying, they treat him condescendingly and do not hide their dislike, but Elliot does not get upset and continues to stick to others. His colleagues plan to go to the bar after work and he, hearing about it, asks for them, but all, as one, refuse, hiding behind plans for the evening. Elliot goes to a bar alone and meets his buddies there. He does not take offense at them and sits down at their table himself, although each of the guys tries to gently escort him out. But then Allison Gardner, another colleague of Elliot's, comes into the institution. Noticing that he is staring at the girl, the friends first make fun of Elliot, say that she is not his field of berry, and then encourage him to approach Allison and talk to her. The guy decides to do this, but it turns out that Allison doesn't really remember him, but Elliot knows a lot about her and remembers everything that connects them because he has been in love with her for 4 years. He remembers that they spoke only once, 3 years ago, then in rainy weather Elliot told her that it was wet outside. The girl politely smiles, but considering him strange, leaves. A disappointed Elliot says he would give anything in the world to have Allison with him. A billiard ball stops at Elliot's feet, rolling across the bar. He finds its owner with his eyes, a girl in a daring red dress at the billiard table. She calls him to her with a gesture of her hand. Elliot can't believe that the girl is addressing him and hesitantly trudges towards her. She says she heard him talking about Allison and asks Elliot if he really wants to be with her. Picking up a cue, she drives almost all the balls on the table into the holes with one blow, which greatly impresses Elliot. The girl takes him outside and forces him to kiss her in order to win her over. When he finally decides to find out who she is, the stranger offers to fulfill his most cherished dream and appears to be the devil. Elliot does not believe her and hurriedly leaves, but she instantly appears in front of him, but in a completely different outfit. With one glance, she sets fire to alcohol and throws a glass into the car interior. Elliot doesn't trust her anyway, and she's actively trying to convince him and offers to make any wish right now. The guy makes a Big Mac with a Coke, and the devil takes him for fast food by bus and pays for the order with his own money, which further strengthens his doubts. To finally convince Elliot, the devil in her car, breaking all the rules, takes him to a nightclub that she owns. Paparazzi and ordinary vacationers meet them at the door, and they all admire Elliot, and the girls in the club argue about which of them he should dance with. Elliot likes being the center of attention, but he still doesn't believe the she-devil. She takes him to her office, where a bundle of papers called a contract falls on him from the ceiling. The girl again offers to fulfill any 7 desires, but in return he must give her his soul. Elliot is doubtful, but the devil shows on the big screen what he can get, him and Allison together as a couple in love. After a little thought, he agrees to this deal. Before starting to fulfill his wishes, the she-devil gives him a pager and warns him that if something goes wrong, he must dial 3 6s. The first thing Elliot wants to do is be very rich, influential and married to Allison. A moment later, he wakes up in the same bed with Allison, an engagement ring on his finger, and looking in the mirror, he sees himself, but with a Mexican appearance. He comes out of the bedroom onto the terrace of his mansion, sees the servants, and realizes that he is now very rich and also speaks Spanish fluently. He really likes his new life until he notices that his beloved wife Allison is spending time with an English teacher, Raul. They are constantly hugging and flirting. His friends, who in a previous life were colleagues at work, show photos of Allison and Raul. The girl has been cheating on her husband for a long time. He decides to talk to her and during the conversation, realizes that she hates her husband with all her heart. Elliot, along with the military, leaves for a factory in the middle of the jungle where he finds out that he is a major drug lord and all his wealth is money from drug sales. And now the Russians, dissatisfied with the quality of the product, and Raul, who wants to take away his business, Elliot escapes and grabs the skis of a helicopter taking off. When the helicopter rises high above the ground, Elliot remembers that the devil gave him a pager in an emergency. He searches in his pockets for a pager and breaks down, but still manages to score 3 6s. Elliot lands on the hood of the car, and the devil was waiting for him. She explains that he is to blame for what happened. He got money and power at the expense of the drug business, and Allison does not love him because he wished to be married to her. There was not a word about love. She moves him and herself to Allison's apartment and finds the girl's personal diary to find out what type of guys she likes. In her diary, she reads that Allison wants an emotional man who would understand and care for her. Elliot makes a second wish. He appears on the seashore, where Allison is waiting for him. They're on a date and had a picnic right on the sand. Elliot is very romantic and sentimental. He speaks in beautiful words, sings a song about dolphins to the guitar, cries at the sight of the setting sun, worries about her emotions and talks about how much he loves her. She reciprocates, but their idyll is destroyed by his colleagues from the office, who appear as beach volleyball players. They mock Elliot by throwing sand right in his face. One of them lures Allison to him, and she leaves Elliot, calling him too sensitive and sentimental. Having once again burst into tears because of the sunset and the departure of the girl, he again dials the numbers on the pager and returns to reality. The third desire of Elliot is to be a big, strong, rich athlete basketball player whom everyone adores. He appears on the basketball court during the match and scores the 135th ball into the basket. He is really big and strong, more than 2 meters tall and with a sporty physique. He is admired by cheerleaders, friends from work, they are also sports correspondents, and crowds of fans in the stands. Everything goes well until it comes to an interview, during which it turns out that Elliot is very stupid, can't connect pairs of words, and repeats the same phrases with a stupid expression on his face. After the match, journalist Allison Gardner sneaks up to him in the locker room and hints that she would really like to sleep with him, but Elliot is too stupid to understand the hints, he takes all her words literally. The guy changes clothes in front of the journalist and realizes that his dignity is too small. Seeing this, Allison immediately refers to some urgent matters and runs away from the locker room. Frustrated, Elliot finds a pager and tries to remember which numbers to dial in order to return. Returning to normal life, he uses the fourth wish and makes a wish to know everything about everything, to benefit people, to be charming, and that Allison was head over heels in love with him. The devil fulfills the wish, and Elliot appears at a social event where everyone knows and respects him. He is a popular writer who wrote a scientific book that won an award before it was published. Allison notices him, immediately falls in love and comes over to meet him. Now Elliot is moderately romantic and charming, knows how to communicate with women. He brings her to his house, but a surprise awaits them both in the bedroom. His boyfriend is waiting in Elliot's bed. Allison is about to leave, but he stops her, asks for a kiss to prove that he is not like that. She kisses him, but all to no avail. Elliot proves both to her and to himself quite the opposite. He returns back and wishes to become president of the United States. Unexpectedly for himself, he appears in the time of Abraham Lincoln and becomes president of America in his place. On this day, the president is supposed to be killed during the performance, but Elliot manages to dial 3 sixes on the pager and return back. He goes to work in the office, but a she-devil appears on his computer monitor at the workplace and says that he has one last wish left. Elliot thinks she's wrong because his last wish was the 5th in a row. However, the devil reminds him of the Big Mac with Coke. He says he wants to break the contract and leaves the workplace. The guy goes to church to talk to God, but only the priest is there. Elliot confides in him and talks about a deal with the devil. The Holy Father calls the police. The officers take the guy to the station. During the interrogation, he tells the same story and says that the devil has his own nightclub, but he does not know where he is. Elliot is picked up by a she-devil in a police uniform, and when he tells the others who she is, he is put in a cell. There his neighbor starts a dialogue with him. When Elliot tells him that he sold his soul, the neighbor tries to convince him, explaining that a person cannot sell his soul because it does not belong to him, but only to God. After spending some time in the cell, Elliot returns to his old life, but the devil does not stop pestering him. A deal is a deal, and she will receive his soul only when she fulfills all 7 desires. He says he doesn't want anything else and can't make his last wish. This makes the girl very angry. She takes him to a tiny island in the middle of the flames, appears in front of him in the guise of a real devil and threatens. Elliot gives up and makes his last wish that Allison will always be happy. The guy wakes up on the stairs in the courthouse and the devil meets him. Now she is friendly and smiling, as before. The girl declares that she no longer claims his soul because one of the clauses of the huge contract states that the deal can be terminated if a person uses desire for noble purposes, and Elliot is the first person in 6,000 years who was able to break the contract. Later, Elliot meets the real Allison in the hallway and tries to ask her out. This time he no longer stutters in front of her and knows how to communicate with people because he has learned a lot from his desires. But she still refuses him because she already has a young man and she is very happy with him. Elliot returns to his office where his friends are waiting for him. One of them approaches him and jokes with a silly expression on his face, parodying Elliot himself, but no one knows that he is no longer the strange guy who asked to go to the bar with colleagues so as not to feel lonely. He became the best version of himself. After work, Elliot returns home and notices that there are a lot of things and furniture at his house. The owner of the house says that he has a new neighbor. Elliot suddenly sees an exact copy of Allison, but she has a completely different style, darker hair, and her name is Nicole. This girl is very friendly and happy to meet a new neighbor. After a while, Elliot and Nicole spend time together. They are both very happy with each other. Thanks for watching.